I Should Be Writing Season 20, Episode 12.
But I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
Hi there. Welcome to I Should Be Writing. This is a podcast for wannabe fiction writers, and I am your host, Mur Lafferty. And it's spring, and there's a lot of pollen everywhere. And I think we're getting storms tomorrow, and I feel kind of weird. Allergies, low pressure system, I don't know. But, in my writing world, I got my edits back from my editor from the book I turned in 6 months ago. And they're going to be, I figured they'd be big, but I was right. So I'm trying, now I'm dealing with one of the hardest things ever as a pro, which is someone saying, how long will it take you to do this? Because I already have ADHD, and I'm not good at telling you how long anything will take. Anything. And now I'm being asked how long something will take me when I'm not entirely sure how much work it's going to be to fix it. And then there's the typing work, and then there's the figuring out something new to fix the problem that's been brought up to me work. There's a lot of, it's not just this, maybe that's why I hate this level, because there's no definite beginning and end. Well, I guess there's a beginning, but it's like, you're finally at the point of the book's life where you're thinking, is this done? And I tell you, and other writers, other professional writers or teachers will tell you, don't do that on first draft or you'll never get finished. But on the next draft, you have to. And you have to decide when you're finished. And so I did what I usually do, which is I read over the notes, and I got mad and I got my feelings hurt. And it was a holiday weekend, so I could stand not doing anything for a little while. And then, once the week started, I started thinking, okay, what am I going to do to fix the things? And how long is it going to take me? I actually got some advice from other writers. And almost all of them said, add more time on at the end once you think you've figured out how much time you'll need. The kids are asleep. If you have any suggestions on what you do, I'd love to hear it. I wish Preemie were here, but Preemie's off being busy and important. But yeah, so I need to answer my editor soon, and I don't know what to say. My process... Oh, Valerie's getting very excited. My process. I did get a good... did do some ideas in the car when I was driving my stepmom somewhere on Saturday, and wrote those down real fast. I did not have paper or a pen on me. My software programmer husband had a notepad and a pen in his car, so that was a little embarrassing, but still ultimately helpful. So I took a couple of notes, and this is on my next book that I'm taking these notes, because the next book is still fun. All right. Valerie says, first I make notes as I'm writing about stuff I know I want to change. Yeah, I think I did that when I turned it into my editor, and I said, here, I've made the deadline, but I know there's another draft, and these things are going to be fleshed out or changed. Second, I reverse outline when I'm done, revise my outline to say what I actually wrote instead of what I planned to write. Okay. This is all very good. Hope people are taking notes. Third, I edit about a chapter every day or so in order because I need that linear continuity to avoid forgetting things and replicating stuff. Okay. So, in theory, for the average 30 chapter book, you get it done in a month. And then add on some time at the beginning and end just for panic. Maybe 5 weeks. Definitely depends on how deep the edits go. Yeah. So this is funny. A problem I've had, and I can recognize it and try to deal with it pretty well. But I first felt it when I lost the first time I was nominated for an award or a finalist for an award and lost it, which was the pain I'm feeling right now is unlike anything anyone else has felt. I'm not saying it's a logical thing, but like looking around, I saw everyone being happy, even the losers. So what was wrong with me? I lose awards with much more aplomb now. Did I use that right? I'm gonna say yeah. I lose awards with aplomb, but sometimes, what I'm referring to is when I got my edit letter, I'm like, no one has ever gotten asked to do this deep of a draft, or deep of an edit after they've turned it in. No professional author has ever experienced this. And I know that's not true. I mean, every edit letter is a travesty and a sign that I am in fact a fraud, says Valerie. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, are they just like really close to just tossing my contract? I mean, yeah. So that's what's on my mind writing wise. I really want to get the other novel project off my plate, just so I stop thinking about it. But this is just like 3 chapters and a new outline to my agent, and I've got 2 of the chapters done. I've never received an edit letter. Of course, that might be because I've never submitted a novel. Those might be connected under Pope, yes. Well, what I wanted to talk about today is I was thinking about Someone Comes to Town and Someone Leaves Town. That's a Cory Doctorow novel title, but it's also a very broad claim of stories starting. I think it's a very Western look, and I'm just remembering I bought a course from Writing the Other about Eastern storytelling, and I did not download it in time, and I found out yesterday that the last chance to download was May 31st, or March 31st, so good job, Mer. But in general, it is, you have your characters, hopefully. The story starts when something different happens to them. Something in their lives changes. Yeah, the only 2 types of story is chestnut. And I think it's what it really is referring to is things have to change. And I think I don't look at the beginnings of my stories like that very often. So I wanted to talk about it because with the Someone Comes to Town, Someone Leaves Town concept, it's everything is the same until someone new gets introduced to the situation, or somebody who's a pillar in that community or family or classroom or whatever leaves. And you may not even know they're a pillar, but their leaving changes something which kicks the story off. And I think a lot of people have trouble starting stories or know where to start. But it's, I keep thinking about A Song of Ice and Fire. And I'm probably never going to get a chance to interview Martin. He's just way too big right now. But I'm hoping enough people have experienced it so this isn't a huge spoiler. But what always fascinates me about that book is, in my opinion, the story starts 20 years earlier than Game of Thrones, the book. And what happens in Game of Thrones is someone's poisoned and Ned has to take his family south to go see the king and help out. And that's kind of the inciting incident. So I guess in that case, someone leaves town. And then someone comes to town near the end. But it's, I would love to have asked him why he decided to start it there, because the story 20 years ago is pretty good. It's just something that has to unfold very gradually over 5 books so far. And is he going to finish them? Well, to quote Neil Gaiman, George Martin is not your bitch. But I will say that on the cruise, Paul and Storm performed their 12-year-old song, Write Faster, George Martin. So, yeah, I don't think it's happening. But that is, worldwide begging for your next book is not a problem I have right now. But still, the way that series started was so interesting. And it kind of shows me that you can pick your beginning from something changing in their lives, but that something small, if it's something small, it can relate back to something very large that happens either earlier or later, but the importance is not obvious. So, yeah, Ian, the weight of expectations must be incredible. It's gotta be. I mean, what's weird for me is I have not sold a lot of books, but I have gotten, I've gotten comments about books that people loved, but are now 15 years old. And I think, or 17 years old. And I'm sort of thinking, when they say, hey, do you think you'll ever, revisit this? And on one hand, I had sequels planned. I had a lot of details in the sequels planned. But I have been so far removed from it for so long that I don't know if I'd be able to immerse myself in that world to write a follow-up. And I don't remember when A Dance with Dragons came out, but I know Game of Thrones was published decades ago, right? Forwarder says, on the plus side, you've never made the cultural relevance of your work collapse almost overnight by biffing the ending. Yes. Kids Are Asleep says, Wonderbook has a great rundown of 4 ways VanderMeer could have started a particular book, and they were all fine, that's with a capital F, and the one he picked was good, but any of the others would have sufficed. It's a weird thing about fiction that where you start can affect trajectory and tone and whatnot, but no one will ever know what might have been. Yeah, that's it, exactly. 2 lines can look almost parallel, but if they're 1 degree off, by the time they get to where they're going, they can be way far apart. No, Ian, this was not you asking about the Shambling Guides. This was earlier work. I also don't know if I could go back to the Shambling Guides universe, but I'm not referring to you. And it's very flattering when people want more work in that world you created. But when you've moved on to other things, your brain kind of puts that in its trunk and goes, okay, well, we did that. Let's do something else. So I'm not sure how he would get his brain around finishing up that epic thing. But I bet he has more people helping him, like the wiki and assistants and stuff. So I don't know. It's funny what you said, Valerie, about Wonderbook, and that's Wonderbook by Jeff VanderMeer. I was told by James Patrick Kelly that you need to think up 10 ways to end your story. And the first couple of ways will be obvious, and the next couple will be a little bit harder, and the last few will be the hardest, and you'll probably want to find your ending in the last few because you've exhausted all the obvious options. I guess that definitely feels less like a seat of your pants writing and much more on an outline level. So the idea of getting close to the end of my story and stopping and brainstorming 10 options feels really foreign to me. But, Jim Kelly said, I trust Jim Kelly, so I need to probably do that. The 10 ways method of brainstorming works for just about anything, says Kids Are Asleep. I don't think it has to be done strictly, but it works. Yes. So if you have your character and you have your setting or your world, think about what's going to change in that world. Is someone going to come to town? Is someone going to leave town? Was someone supposed to come and did not? Did something get lost? It's a very broad thing. The someone doesn't have to be a person. And coming to town or leaving town does not have to be hopping in your car and driving to or fro. Valerie's working on a blog post about the wrong hat method of shipping, and I think in some ways the 10 ways method is sort of familiar. The wrong hat method is when a story introduces one or more love interests who are clearly wrong in some ways, so the right one stands out. Ah, yes, like people calling Hunger Games a love triangle. It wasn't a love triangle. There was no way I did not get that at all. Maybe it was just me. Maybe other people felt the love triangle, but I didn't. I had there's the person you should be with and the person who you liked when you were little. Seems pretty obvious. So, says Valerie, the 10 ways method is basically you coming up with the wrong hats so the right one becomes clear to you. Okay, that's good. You should finish your blog post and then post it in chat. Maybe another time, but... do you know if you watch Valerie game at night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, you can spend channel points to ask her your questions. And she'll rant about writing, no problem. The love triangle the same way relationships in Hallmark Christmas movies are love triangles. Yeah, I guess so. But actually, I should study love triangles a little bit closer, because I think there's always going to be somebody who thinks the person that the hero and the heroine didn't end up with was the right choice. Pretty much everybody knows it's like, well, you should be with this person who makes sense, and I get how this person is exciting, but you shouldn't be with him. I think that's what people end up thinking. But sometimes people get really attached to their shipping. And, I don't like to talk too much about The Lady in Scotland because TERFs suck, but I got a listener very angry with me when I was trying to explain how the Harry-Ginny relationship made sense and Hermione-Ron was forecasted from the beginning. And so it was not a shock at all that those two couples ended up the way they were. And someone got really mad at me. And I'm like, I could point to you the clues. But, thank you, Foreigner. I shouldn't call her a lady, actually, but that's just what comes to mind. Yeah, they're not triangles, they're just wrong hats. So, okay, tell me this. Do you think that love triangles should be more truly triangle, like you honestly do not know who the person's going to end up with? Discuss. I think I like love triangles, but I think it's because some people don't like it because it's been done a lot, but I like it when it's done, done well. There have been some stories that try to make the quote unquote, the one she doesn't end up with, try to make them like really exciting and sexy, and then they'll do one wrong thing, and then suddenly they're evil. And that way you know that the probably more boring guy is the one she should be with. Bridget Jones's Baby did that. And sometimes you feel like, I feel sorry for the heroine because story means that she needs to go with the one she was with. Valerie says, I think sometimes the wrongness of a hat is not obvious at first and only develops over time in a story or series. Yes. People get very attached to their book boyfriends. And if something weird happens to book boyfriend or the relationship you really like, people have a lot of emotions about it, which means the author did their job, but that doesn't mean they're not going to get angry mail. I think I'm going to end the podcast here for the feed. So we're going to say goodbye, and if you would like to continue our discussion, you can support at patreon.com/mightymer or mightymer.substack.com, where you'll get extended, ad-free, and early episodes. Or you could join us on Twitch for free at twitch.tv/mightymer. 3 o'clock, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Almost always 3 o'clock. Yeah, I think next time we'll talk about Hugo stuff, because there's more stuff to talk about. But for now, Merverse.com is where you can find me. MightyMer@gmail.com is how you can get in touch with me. I'm on most socials at Mighty Mer, and I'm easy to find online, so just look me up. If you enjoy this podcast, can you please leave a review? That would do me a lot of good. Sometimes I feel like I'm coasting along on a plateau of, well, I've been here forever, so, and I would like some people to hear that, some new people to hear that it might be a good podcast. So if you got the chance, drop us a review. Thank you. And I'll talk to you guys on Thursday. And until then, you should be writing. Thank you for listening to I Should Be Writing, the longest running writing podcast in existence. This episode was made possible by the Fabulous, who support the podcast via Patreon or Substack. Join the Fabulous at patreon.com/mightymur or mightymur.substack.com. Theme music provided by John Anelio, art provided by Numbers Ninja, and podcast hosting provided by Libsyn. This episode is released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 license. You can find all of my books and podcasts at merverse.com.